Hey students, welcome to the last week. We are winding up our course text by exploring the world of financial management. Let's take a look at our learning outcomes from chapter 16. We're going to be explaining why financial management is important in today's economy. We're going to be explaining the reasons behind a business's short-term and long-term financial needs. We're also going to be describing the advantages and disadvantages of the different methods to finance short-term debt. And then we're also going to be evaluating the advantages and disadvantages of raising capital using equity financing. Let's talk some about the highlights in chapter 16. If you've ever been in a leadership position in a business, you know that money will keep you open or close you down. Lack of money will close you down. Managing finances is the difference between success and failure. Take a look at that figure 16.1 or 16-1. It's in your text and it's on the screen as well in front of you. Notice the number of bankruptcies in 2011 through 2016. Any guess why bankruptcies were so high in 2011? Well, if you guessed the Great Recession, you'd be mostly right. But there's additional reasons included that businesses were not ready with good financial management practices for the economic storm that took place during the recession. And, to be ready for those turbulent times, businesses must be ready to address both short-term and long-term finance goals. Look at table 16-1 in our text. It's also on the screen. The short-term needs are much different than the long-term needs. In the short term, businesses need to be ready with access to cash to cover expense items, emergencies, promotions or ads, and that sort of thing. In the long term, you need to cover expansion of your business, replacing equipment, and developing new products. Often you don't see immediate revenue from those long-term financing options. Imagine for a moment that you own and operate a Christmas tree farm. You put money into growing these trees for years, and that's an example of long-term financing. You eventually cut the trees in October of the year that you're going to sell them, and you transport them to the distribution locations throughout the state or the region where you're going to sell them to the consumer or to other businesses who will in turn sell them. You don't get paid often until December sometime in most cases. You need short-term financing to cover your labor and transportation costs. Businesses need to consider both long-term and short-term financing solutions. Figure 16.3 is one way to consider how to think about the different sources of funding your business. Let's talk about short-term debt financing from section 16-5. The first thing to remember is that having debt does not mean the business is insolvent or going under. Not being able to pay your debt will make you insolvent and certainly go under, but having debt doesn't mean that you're doing bad. In fact, it can mean quite the opposite. Responsible debt management is part of mastering financial management. Short-term debt breaks into two different categories. There's the unsecured short-term financing sort of debt, and then there's the secured short-term financing type of debt. In brief, unsecured financing is a loan from a source without collateral to back up the loan. And you can see that in the table that's in front of you there, table 16-2. A personal credit card, for example, is a form of unsecured short-term financing. Sources of unsecured loans for short-term financing include things called trade credit, promissory notes, unsecured bank loans, kind of like a line of credit, if you will, and commercial paper. Sources of secured loans for short-term financing include loans from banks with the inventory being held as the collateral, loans from banks with the receivables being held for collateral. Now, receivables are the outstanding invoices it's money owed to the business, where the business has issued an invoice and just hasn't been paid yet. So sometimes banks will take those receivables, those unpaid invoices, as collateral towards a loan. And then there are things called factoring options, where you're using other companies to help you get through a short-term need for cash. Check out table 16-2 for a concise list, pretty good list there of those short and long-term financing options that are available to companies. All right, and finally, let's briefly talk about equity financing. Equity financing provides a source of long-term financing for a business. For a privately held company, for example, a source of equity financing is the owners or the business partners. When those owners put their own personal money back into the business, they're providing a form of equity financing. When a publicly traded company sells stocks, they are exercising a form of long-term financing using an equity financing option. So read about the details about equity financing in section 16-6 in your text. Before I go, let's talk about your presentation that's due this week. You know, in most work environments today, it's common for leaders to be in a position of having to participate in or deliver an online presentation. It's usually in the context of an online meeting or a virtual team. It's important that you know how to put a presentation together and deliver it virtually. This week's assignment gives you an opportunity to practice and build that skill. Now, for this assignment, you're going to create a 10-minute presentation that will be given in a Zoom meeting format with me, just one-on-one. You can read all the details in the syllabus, but here are the highlights of what I want you to do. Select one of your assignments from week 1 through week 7. This assignment is the basis for your online presentation with me. Let me know via email what time slot works for you next week. Plan on about a 15-minute time slot. You know, it's 10 minutes for the presentation, but 15 minutes by the time we chat a little bit and that sort of thing. Make sure you pick a time that works for your schedule. Remember, I'm 3 hours in front of you, so don't pick something too late in the evening. Otherwise, I may not be able to do it. But pick a presentation tool that works for you as well. Most people use PowerPoint. I would encourage you to use PowerPoint. But if you want to take Prezi on, you can do that, PowerTunes, or whatever other tools that you may have available to you. I'll provide a PowerPoint template in the assignment section where it describes the assignment. There'll be a little link you can click on there that'll lead you to a template PowerPoint. It's very, very basic though. I would encourage you to start from that and then build up, change the colors, make it look better, play with the fonts, that sort of thing. Or you can welcome to develop your own format too. Now, the requirements for this presentation are present a factual and engaging presentation about a topic that you found interesting as you wrote about between weeks 1 and week 7. And look at that rubric again in the syllabus for the details of how I'm going to score this assignment. Make sure you pick something that's of interest to you though from your assignments week 1 through week 7, something you can speak into a little bit. You need to cite at least one source. And this source can be the course text, but I encourage you to find sources beyond even the course text. Your presentation must be delivered to me and uploaded into Canvas before midnight on the last day of the course. So that's midnight on the Sunday of this week. You need to have delivered your 10-minute presentation to me one-on-one and uploaded it into Canvas. Again, I encourage you to review the rubric for week 8's assignment in the syllabus. Okay, that's all for now. Again, please watch the devotional, read chapter 16, and check out the supplemental content and the materials needed for success page. That's for week 8. And I'm looking forward to meeting you online in a Zoom meeting this week. Be sure to send me an email with a time this week that works for you. And remember, God is on his throne. He's always been there, and he's always going to be there for you. Have a great and wonderful day.